G'day YouTube, welcome back to my channel. Just a reminder that my club has our exhibition coming up in 14th and 15th of May 2022, Bonsai Northwest Melbourne. If you're in Melbourne or in Victoria, come along. It's always an awesome event. Lots of trees on display and sale, and a lot of my trees on display. Heaps of stuff for sale from all different vendors, pot makers, etc. It's in Footscray Community Arts Centre, 14-15 May. Come along and enjoy yourself. Right, so we've got another juniper prostrata, I believe, or procumbens, close, whichever one it is. This is another client tree that I'm working on. A bit more advanced than the younger juniper that I did the other day, that you've seen in another video. This one has a few more challenges, more interest, a bit more uniqueness. We've got to think about a lot more different things when we're working with this tree. I like the planting angle that's on it at the moment, slanting a little bit this way. I was having a look, it could possibly want to come back this way a little bit more upright, but I'll have a look at that. Usually I just got to put some chocks underneath it just to prop it up, and I think it might look a little bit better going back this way a bit more rather than falling over. But as I always do with looking at these trees, is I look at what are the good points, what are the bad points. What are the good points we want to enhance? What are the points that are difficult to use or going to give us problems, and so on and so forth. And how I can hide them, disguise them, work with them, do something with them. Okay. Probably a nice movement of the trunk. It's a decent size, it's a nice little start, moving around and up through, and quite a decent taper for a juniper. A little bit same in this area. There's a few dead bits here. There's a few weak branches down below. The main problem is all the strength is in the top. You can see how heavy the top is in foliage, and that's a real concern. I had a look at the other side of this tree just to see if there's anything good there as well. All the foliage is pretty much at the back, and we can't really use that because that's going to block a lot of the tree when we look at it. With the foliage at the back, what we can do is move it around to the front. And that's my plan, is moving there's some big heavy branching at the back that I want to move around and put them in the front, because a lot of these branches here are a little bit weak. I'm not confident I want to keep them. I might want to gin them, create shari along the trunk, which is probably the main thing I want to do with this tree to give it a bit more interest. It doesn't need a huge amount, and I can actually feel the live veins. You can actually feel the bits that are raised and the bits that are there's a bit of a trough. So you feel the raised bits are the ones feeding. For example, this branch is really heavy and strong, and I can definitely feel it along the trunk, that live vein coming along this bit and sitting on this side. And then there's a bit of a trough, and then there's a bit more weight around the other side. So, you know, it's good to feel around the tree, try and feel the live vein without cutting into it when I want to do shari work. So probably the first thing I look at is shari work on this tree. Shari is making natural deadwood along the trunk, and seeing what I can do there. I don't want to reduce any foliage yet. I want to work with what I've got. I don't want to cut any branches off yet. Just got to work with what I've got, because once I cut it off, it's not coming back. pretty obvious. A lot of these branches are quite rigid as well. These are very strong and rigid. A lot of these will have to just be wide and positioned. A lot of the branches. This is probably the feature. This big strong first branch. I want to really make that a feature. Really make that nice and looking, nice and healthy. The top is nice and healthy, easy enough to build an apex with that. But as I said to you, one of the main draw cards, or one of the main interests on this tree is there is a back branch, which I'll turn it around. There's a significant back branch here. Now this is quite huge. My intention is I want to try and swing that branch into this area in here. So bring it right around and make a pad in there to really give it to some more depth. Then I can drop some of these branches a bit lower, so because that's going to fill that gap. Like I drop these lower, make some pads. Drop these lower, make some pads. It's just lacking. There's lacking foliage in this area, even at the back and towards the side. So that's probably the main bit of work I have to do, to get that branch around and across. Easy enough to do this branch. Easy enough to wire a lot of the other branches. Might have to cut off some weak, sickly looking branches, and the apex would be a nice, pretty normal apex we're going to work through. But first things first, we want to do some shari work. So before I start cutting into the tree or getting stuck into it with a knife, I get a piece of chalk and I try and outline where I want to put the shari. Also work out which branches are going to be gins. There's already some dead ones here, so I'll just gin them and clean them up, and probably put a bit of shari around those bits just to make it look natural. Yeah, so I use a chalk and try and outline where I want to see the deadwood work. So I've still got it on the little stilt. I'm just going to have another look and see. Yeah, I might want to keep that angle. If I didn't keep that, I find the trees falling over too much. I think if we prop it up a little bit, it looks a little bit better. But we might change our mind. You can always change your mind. All right, so at the moment I can feel there's a bit of a hollow in the middle section, and it comes around. So it's going to be not a straight part, but I'm hoping to have a bit more of a twist around and come around to here. So we'll work that out, okay? So I'm not 100% sure if you can see, but there's a chalk line that starts at the back a little bit and comes around to the front. I'm not going to make a massive shari, I'm just going to make a small one, and what happens is you gradually widen it over time, and that's the best way to do it. Keep the tree safe and healthy, but that shari should actually create much more interest in this tree. So let's work on that, okay? When you're doing shari, be very careful with your hands, I guess. I use a nice sharp Stanley knife. Everyone else can use, or box cutter, I think they call it overseas. In Australia we call them a Stanley knife. I use this works really well, but just be careful with your hands. You're going to cut them if you're not too careful. Take it slow and easy and you get it done. Alright, so I've just started on a nice little thin line of a shari in there. You hopefully can see that. It's very thin at the moment. As I said to you, play it safe. We'll expand that over time, but it gives you a nice line of how the shari and trunk go. I've stopped it about here. I didn't want to go any further just yet. I think I'm happy with that point there. What I'm going to look at now is setting this first big important branch. At the moment, all I'm doing is cleaning up. I'm finding dead branches, cleaning it out. I'm also looking for long, elongated growth that doesn't have much growth and it doesn't have anything, and then I've got little tufts of foliage at the end. Things like I saw one like here, like this. So I'll try and give you a better look. See how it's bare, and then I've got another nice little pad branch back behind it, so I can take that off. So things like that I'm looking for to try and remove, because we don't need it. We can supplement it with something else, and that will never be a good branch. It's going to have always bare. You could get back budding, but it's always going to be bare, and then not much interest later on. So cleaning up this pad, setting this as the first branch, this sets up everything else. So once you set the main important, biggest, heaviest branch, it really sets up everything else. So it's the most important branch at the moment on the tree, and it's got nice thicker branches in here, which is good. It tapers really well, so it's just very long. We'll have to cut it back a little just to see where it ends up. Clean underneath, clean foliage underneath, clean leggy growth, the same process, crotch growth, things like that. Okay, just a quick progress update. This was the main branch that I was talking about, getting that set right. Now you can probably just work out, I've started to create pads, creating a large pad here and pads all around. I'll give you a little twist so you can see what it looks like now. I've got different layers and levels. I'm not 100% sure about this lower one at the moment. I'm going to leave it there for now. Might have to raise it a little bit. It doesn't look so low when you get the right angle. Maybe I'll drop it a bit. Probably just lift it up a little bit, but patting it out, fanning the branches, raising them up the tips a little bit, trying to create an overall pad. This will now just fill out with growth, and it will at least fill out in the right way. That's the whole intention. So really just want to come back to where I'm at to. This whole branch is kind of nicely placed together. I wasn't 100% sure about this one, but I'm gonna keep it for now. Just probably gonna raise it a little bit. It's a really low one, which is nice, can be nice. But this is the main pad here. Might have to thin it out to balance out the tree, but it's such a nice, big, strong, forward looking pad. So see how it's forward? Yeah. Everything else has to now catch up in a way to that, so I might thin that out a little bit. But setting the main branch, and you can see when I use copper wire on this tree entirely, because I haven't had to put massive bends, I haven't had to tweak things around and move them around. I will have to do a aluminium wire up here because I'm going to put an excessive bend in it, and aluminium is a bit easier to do than copper. When you're doing refinement work, copper is really good. Like it sits and it holds the branches really well. Just want to clean, I will have to clean it up a little bit more, thin out certain areas I can see now a bit overgrown, but at least we're on our way to setting the tree up. I only showed you this half, I haven't touched the rest, but by setting the first branch, now we can work our way around the tree and get the other branches set in place, okay? The only reason I'm using the towel over this is to, the soil, I don't want it to be covered in juniper foliage that I cut off, or wire that I cut off, so it keeps it nice and clean. Alright guys, let's keep working along the tree, and I'll be back to show you another progress update. I've been getting quite a bit of work done on this tree. I've cleaned out these branches and wired them up. They're a little bit thinner than this side, as you can see. I will thin this out a little bit more once I'm finished the tree, and then I'll know how much foliage I have in different areas. I've wired that branch. You probably can't see this one, but I've wired this one in here. Haven't wired any of the back and all the heavy foliage on that side. But that one's done, that one's done. This is all done. Another important branch is here, these two in here. You can probably just see this one in the front, which I need to tweak a little bit as always. And then there's this really important branch here. Now I'm trying to spin it around here, but you can see how it's stepped, and layers are starting to form. It's a really important branch that sits on top of, almost on top of this one, with a bit of it as space, but it sits on top of it, giving it, proportion and giving it nice taper. So you can see the taper happening along here. So the tree's coming along pretty well. I think it'll come up really good. I've got a lot of foliage to deal with, especially in that area on this side. So I'm gonna have to look at how I'm gonna get it sorted, which should be just about a thinning out. I did apply some heavy gauge wire, aluminium that is, to this. I'll show you the back branch. This was the back branch. Can you see? Let me try and spin it around more. This was the back branch, and I put heavy wire and I bent it as much as I could to this side so I can bring some of the foliage forward. Then I'll be able to put some layers in here, lay these down, and finish off an apex and fill out the back area as well. Got this branch in here that I'll wire next to fill in the back over here, and we go out up the tree. Once I'm done this one, I really just have that very heavy branch at the back that I've just talked about wiring. Just this very big one at the back that I just talked about, which I'll need to figure out where the foliage is going to sit, and then I'm going to work out what's happening here. Probably is just a matter of thinning a lot of it. That's what I'm thinking. Also, I'm considering if there's something too heavy, might have a gin that's sticking out, but I don't think there's anything there that's a candidate for that. So yeah, we're gonna have to see what happens, but really happy with the way it's going. Need to thin this out a little bit just to balance the rest of the tree. It is a little heavy, but yeah, we're going along really well. So we'll see how the next part goes. Once I've cleaned this up and we just have an apex, I'll show you the next step, okay? I'm at a point where the tree is starting to really take shape, and I'm up to this part of the tree. Other than cleaning up and fixing bits and pieces, I'm really up into this section now. Now, if I spin it around, I've created a nice space here for a back branching. Now, that's good. So what I'll do now is I'll start with the back branching here, fill this space, fill these gaps in here that needs filling. And then what happens is I'll be able to see a bit more clearly what I'm going to do with this big heavy branch on this side. That's been the dilemma at the moment, is this big heaviness over here, what I'm going to do with it. But so far so good. I'll do a bit of spin around of the tree in better lighting. It's not the best lighting at the moment in the morning with the sun coming through, but yeah, I'll keep working on it. There's a bit of a gap in here, which isn't too bad, but I'd like to just maybe drop this branch down. We'll see. We'll tweak things around later, but so far so good. Yeah, but that's my approach now, because I've got this really big branch over here. I don't know how much I need to reduce just yet, or do I create something interesting? So what I'll do is I'll fix the other areas that are pretty easy, like these back branches and side branches. I'll fix those and then I'll come back to that and it should tell me what I need to do. Okay, so we're at the point where I have to make a decision on this section of the tree. Looks pretty straightforward from the camera, but what it is a very large branch that's been bent down into this position. So what I did is I actually finished and wired the apex off as best I can without actually doing this section. Now the reason I did that, then now I can figure out where I want to place things and how it's going to look. So that's the next step. So now I just really want to take a step back and study the tree and study which of these and which branches I can cut off. Do I thin it right out? Do I cut it away? You can just see that there are branches in different areas that we could use, but it's really heavy, and I really want to, get rid of some of this, but I need something in there. I know there needs to be some sort of branch in there, so I was just trying to find and eliminate the things I don't need and keep the branch or two branches that I need in there without making it too heavy in this section. So that's where I'm at. So a little trick, I finished the apex off, wired it up so that I can figure out where I'm going to put that. So I thinned out the tree quite a bit around here, and now I've made a decision. Now if I turn this around, I don't know if you can see that really sticks out, this branch. It's quite a heavy branch too, as I mentioned. Now I found a smaller one at the back, towards the back, much smaller. I've wired that, and I think I'm going to bring it around and position it in here. So that ultimately means I can remove this. So here we go. Probably the hardest decision on this tree was what am I going to do with this branch, and I think I have to get rid of it. I'll always have little branches above that will fill out eventually. Now, reason I'm not doing this as a gin is there isn't any much gin anywhere else, and if I have one right up here, it will kind of unbalance the tree. So I'm taking it out. Now, see the clarity in there, there's much better room. Now I've got this branch that I'll just set and put it into this spot, and eventually what we'll do, we'll reduce these stubs over time, and that should be, so this branch now just moves into here, and I think I'm good. So we'll come back and look at the final tree. Alright everyone, so this is what it looks like now. Just trying to get the angle right on the camera, just to give you a good look. I'll do a little spin around. I thinned out this section a little bit, not too much. I like it nice and full there, but it's looking really good. Alright, so it's probably at that angle there. I like it a little bit tilted, so it's more, the top sits more upright. Probably you'll notice this side is a little bit weaker than this side. That's just going to take time for the tree to recover. We've thinned out all the areas that needed to be thinned out, especially. Probably the only other thing is the apex needs to really grow and fill out. There's actually up here, there's the branches that I've used, they're quite weak still. They're not entirely the strongest, so these need to really fill out nicely. I'm happy I removed that large branch down here, gave it more space. Looks really nice, small, informal upright tree. The shari, I'm just going to let it dry out before I do any lime sulfur work. I like to let it dry naturally and see what happens with it. Overall, it's really nice. So yeah, really good. I think it will come up a beauty. Yeah, I think only over time things will start to fill out nicely, and then we might be able to remove some other branches that are probably not required as much, but that's more towards the back and that big side branch that I used. So that big back branch that I used over here, that I've bent down into this space, because there's no branching, I had to use it. So it's come up all right, come up looking good too. Overall, yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. There's a bit of probably cleaning up to do, just things that are hanging down. Now you also notice things that are just hanging down. I like to clean the lines. It's always a little bit of a, play around with it. But yeah, and there's always foliage that you cut off from here. It falls a bit lower. So just working on that, plucking things underneath. Anyway guys, I did use copper for the entire tree. Now you can probably, actually except for that big branch that I want to bend excessively. So, but you probably can see the difference using copper. It doesn't stand out as much and looks a lot cleaner. Alright guys, happy to answer any questions, but I'm hoping the client will be happy with his tree. I'm sure very happy with it, especially when you look back and see what it looked like before. Alright guys, I've got one more big tree to do for a client again, and that will come up in the next video. But for now, take care and see you next time.